And if you don't have discipline, you pray to God. You think you're going to pass nursing school without being able to critically think? You have another thing coming. It's not easy. I'm drained. I'm drained for the most time of the time that you don't even have because you in nursing school.
There's nothing you can do to convince me that God did not take an extra day creating me. I mean, look at me.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brianna, and on my channel here we talk about lifestyle, nursing school, and hair. So today I'll be giving y'all the tea on the 6 effective ways that I use to study and how I managed to be on the dean's list my entire time since I've been in nursing school. I go to a private institute, so we don't have semester, we have quarters. Right now I'm in my 6 out of 7 quarters, and if by God's grace I pray that I make the dean's list this quarter. That way I can graduate in honors.
This award is given to the student who will be graduating with the highest nursing GPA. I would like to congratulate Brianna Bryant.
First and foremost, I couldn't have did this without God himself. So, but I'm going to share like my 6 effective way, like studying methods that I use to actually study and how it works for me. All the time I come on and tell you guys this because of the simple fact that I wanted to make sure that it worked. And not only that it just worked for me, that it worked for other people who learn differently from me. So the first thing I always do before we start a quarter is I print my syllabus. I always print the syllabus before the class starts, so I know exactly what we'll be going over and what content to review before I go to class. You always want to review the content before you go to class. If you do not review the content before you go to class, just know you're setting yourself up for failure, because anything that the teacher lecture on that day that you didn't previously look over, just like skim over, it will be like blah, blah, blah.
Like, you're not gonna understand what she's talking about.
And I learned that actually last quarter. I never used to do that, but like, and I used to be like, why do they make us come to lecture? Like I can pass this class without coming to lecture. When in reality, if I would have looked at the content beforehand, before even going to class, it would have made like that light go off in my head, like, dude, the girl, duh, that's why you go to lecture right there. Lecture will become beneficial to you when you take the time and review the content before going to class. So that's the first thing I do. The second thing as I do, once I look at the content that we'll be studying for that week, I go on YouTube and I find a video. Nurse Sarah, oh my gosh, she is the GOAT. When I tell you, when I graduate, I want to be like, I want to thank God, I want to thank me, and most of all, I want to thank Nurse Sarah. You know what I'm saying? I know it's petty, but I probably won't thank none of my professors because, I don't know, that's a whole nother story. But Nurse Sarah and Nurse Mike for pharmacology, oh my God, they are the GOAT. They got me through my whole nursing journey. Without them, I don't know where I would be. I would be struggling trying to learn this content. What I do when I look at their videos is that I actually take handwritten notes. You get like a blank piece of like computer paper, and I fold it in half, and then I write my notes. And my notes will kind of go like patho, signs and symptom manifestations, diagnostics, labs, and nursing intervention is a big part of your notes. So I focus a lot on nursing interventions. Once I make my handwritten notes, I go to class. This is the 4th step. You go to class and you add to those handwritten notes. So like I said, if you review prior to going to lecture, it's going to make a little bit more sense. And sometimes, like our professors, they'll tell you like, hey, hint, you might want to know this for the test. So what I'll do is write that in a whole different color, so I know the professor said this. Once I get done with my handwritten notes, I make a second set of notes. Now, I wouldn't call these notes, I will call this my study guide. And the study guide, I make my own study guide based off the handwritten notes that I have. So I literally will look at my handwritten notes and look at something. And let's say we were going over the renal system, and let's say we were going over end-stage renal failure. And so what I would do is I would look at my handwritten notes like, okay, let's make questions from the notes, and I would formulate questions, and I would make really good questions, and under that I would have the answers. So it'll be like one big condensed flashcards. I don't use flashcards anymore. They're very time consuming, and the type of courses that we're in an accelerated bachelor's course, so it's really fast, and I learned in pharmacology that worked in pharm, but for med surg and adult health, it's not so effective. So I had to learn to get creative, and that's when I learned to just make one big condensed flashcard, girl, and I call it my study guide. And basically, my study guide quizzes me. And I tell people, if you're looking at my study guide and you're trying to learn something, you should be looking at my study guide once you already kind of know the content, because it's just a bunch of questions and the answers at the end, because that's how I learn. I have to be able to quiz myself. And see, just look at my handwritten notes, formulate questions from the notes, and then add them, and then that's how I make my study guide. I'm gonna have a really detailed video that I'll be doing on each step, especially my study guide, because I think it's like legit. And yeah, when I make the study guide, I also color code it. I usually put like red, important stuff in red. I usually put my signs and symptoms and manifestations of certain disease processes in orange. And yeah, so I know like what's important. Once I do my study guide, I usually do this on a Word document. So at this point, I have handwritten notes and I have electronic notes. The electronic notes work so well for students because you can take them anywhere. And what I always do is I email them to myself, or I send them to my phone and my Word document on my phone, because you know you can download Word on your phone, so that's no excuse. And I study on the go. Like, if I'm like waiting in line at an appointment, best believe I have my phone out. Instead of strolling through Instagram, you better believe that your girl is studying, because I'm the type of person, if I get below 80 on the test, I'm depressed for like 2-3 weeks. I'm getting better, but that's just how I am. Like, I'm one of those overachiever type I have that overachiever type personality. So I know that failing the test would really put me in like some deep depression type shit. And I know like, girl, it's just a test, but that's just how I am. So I always study on the go, and I just try not to make excuses. That's why your notes should be on your phone. So that time that you spend on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you can be looking at your notes and making sure that you are dialing in on the content that you need to know. So that way when that test comes, you're blowing it out the water. This needed to be done before 3 days before the test. Those last 3 days, which is like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where we don't have school, is the time that I study the most. So during those days, I look at NCLEX style practice questions, and I use 3 different resources. And when I study these questions, I don't study the question, I study the rationale. So a lot of students, I see them do this. They try to memorize the questions, because sometimes the teachers take questions from those resources and put them on a test. But if you didn't study the rationale, you don't know why that question right. So the teacher could easily throw in, the professor could easily throw in like, why not? And that's what, it'll mess you up on those questions, because you'll be like, oh, I seen this already. No, girl, she put not in there, or she twisted it around, or he twisted it around. And if you were paying attention, and if you studied the rationale, you would have got the answer right. So I always study why the answer is the answer. If I know the answer off top and I get it correctly, I don't too much worry about it. Now the ones that I get wrong, those are the ones that I take notes on. So I'll take notes on the rationale, and I will add them to my study guide, because I'm like, boom, I didn't know that. And then I also try to look between my 3 resources to see like what's heavy, what's recurring, like they keep talking about. And you'll see that when you're looking at different study NCLEX style questions, you'll be like, wow, this one focused a lot on this, and this one focused a lot on this. So what you think your lecture gonna focus a lot on? That also. So you really want to be able to, you know, focus on those things and make sure that you know them in and out. I use 3 different resources. I use a test bank, which you can find online somewhere. You know, I like y'all want to be over here using test bank, and a lot of time, I mean, y'all act like it's illegal or something. It's out there. So I use that. I also, sometimes I use my NCLEX style book. I use my study guides that goes to my med surg book, my Sandra study guide. I love that. That actually builds the foundation of how I study. I usually use that, and when I'm taking notes, they're like hand in hand in case I miss something. It kind of guides me. The study guide guides me to make my own study guide, if that makes sense. Those are my 6 effective ways. So let's go over this again. First thing you want to do, print out your syllabus and go over the content before you get to class. Okay, before you get to class. The thing you want to do is watch YouTube, guys. Yeah, you want to use all types of learning styles to better your learning style. After you watch YouTube, you want to go to lecture, you want to listen to your lecture and add additional notes to your handwritten notes. After you do your handwritten notes, you want to make your study guide that is based off your handwritten notes, and you basically just make questions from the notes that you already have. And that's how you create your study guide. And once you create your study guide, you want to transfer the notes onto your electronic device, i.e. your phone, and then you want to study on the go. Make the most time of the time that you don't even have because you're in nursing school. Like, you don't got no time to be really studying for nursing school. You have to make time. You got to make wine out of grapes. You know what I'm saying? You got to do that. And then the last thing you do is you want to go over NCLEX style questions. That is a must. It is a must, and you need to get it done. People don't tell you about nursing school. If you think you're gonna get through nursing school based off your memory, you have another thing coming.
I remember my first week in pharmacology. We had a teacher, and he was like, our professor. He was like, "Let me tell you something." He went on this whole spiel about how the education system has failed us and has failed to teach us how to critically think on our own, and they've taught us how to remember stuff, and that we think we can get through life by memory alone. He's like, if you think you're gonna pass nursing school with your memory.
If you think you're going to pass nursing school without being able to critically think, you have another thing coming. I was just like, what are you talking about? My memory A1, I got this. Like, I've been remembering stuff since I was in kindergarten. What is he talking about? And I learned quickly that man was 100% right.
He tested us so hard where you had to critically think. And my first quarter, although I passed that class, it taught me how to learn.
I never knew how to learn until nursing school.
I learned how to break a disease process down to the cellular level that if they ask me a question, I'm able to critically think it out. So don't think you're going to come into nursing school memorizing content. That's not how it's going to work. You're going to need to critically think. You're going to have to learn to critically think. You're going to have to
reteach yourself all over again.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's going to be a process, but do it early. Don't wait too late. Do it early. And that's the best thing I could have ever done for myself in my journey through nursing school. And it's to the point where I teach my son stuff all the time. And I used to teach him based off just trying to remember stuff. And now to the point I catch myself trying to teach him how to critically think. And
it's not easy. I'm drained for trying to teach myself how to critically think. And another thing that's helped me get on the dean list my entire time during nursing school is discipline. And people always ask me, my classmates, how do you do it? You have a 4-year-old. We see you balance your life with your 4-year-old in school. How do you maintain your grade point average? And I mean, I'm no superhero. I'm not. And I tell them discipline.
And it's the only thing I could do. I went to the military when I was 18, 3 weeks out of high school, and I was shipped off the base training. So they instilled disciplining me a long time ago, and it took me, I bumped my head a couple times before I actually learned the concept of discipline.
And if you don't have discipline, you
pray to God
to give you discipline to do the things you need to do, and give you discipline to stay away from things that you don't need to be worried about. Let me tell you, prayer and discipline has got me through nursing school, and it's been a wild, crazy journey. But if you follow these 6 effective ways to study, I promise you that you will be on the dean's list also. The motivation will not always be there, but if you learn to discipline your mind and discipline your actions and discipline your thoughts, you won't always need motivation to do what you need to do. And that's point blank period. Have some intestinal fortitude to just, embrace the suck. It's like a short-term sacrifice for a long-term of success. And I want to let all you new nursing students know that you can do it. So don't get discouraged. Stick in there and you can do it. How I, as a single mother with a 4-year-old boy, I'm a boy mom. They don't get tired. If I can do it, you new young nursing students, I know y'all got this on lock. Y'all can do it. And even you other single mothers, you can do it. So yeah, those are my 6 effective ways that I learned to study. Don't forget, you must critically think.